In this short video, I'm going to show you how to make this pendant. It's made using 1.25mm wire and a round coin amethyst. It's actually from a strand of drilled coins, but it's really nice clean lines, and it's sort of one of my favourite designs. So that's the front of the pendant, and on the reverse we have this spiral design, which actually you could wear sort of that way around if you wanted to. So I'm going to show you how we make that frame, and then we'll pop in the gemstone. So I'm going to move that out of the way and bring in what we need. Right, so this is the silver plated wire that I'm using for the demonstration. It's a 1.25 and it's a soft wire, just because that's what I've got, and it's nice and handy. I prefer to use the 1.25 as opposed to a 1mm, because we need the structure there to hold the gemstone in place. Because it's held in with tension, we need sort of the structure there to keep that gemstone in place. Okay, right, so we've got our wire. I've got my chain, and obviously I would add a clasp to that, and then I've got my gemstone. Now my gemstone, as I said, is a round coin from a strand. It's a strand of amethyst, and they're through drilled, but you could do this with a round cabochon as well. So to get going, I'm going to move the gemstone and the chain out of the way, and I'm going to start with the wire. Now what I would do normally is I would work directly from the wire, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to try and straighten that out with my fingers, because there's a few dinks in there and I want it nice and straight. For the purposes of the demonstration, I'm actually going to cut off a piece. So I've cut off a piece of the wire there, and that's probably about 11 inches. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start and make our circles. We're going to start at this point here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go in a little way. So we need to leave on here enough tail to make the spiral detail on the back. So I'd leave a couple of inches just so you've got enough wire there to make that spiral detail. Okay, so we're going to leave that just there, and then we're going to start making circles to go around the coin bead, or whatever size that you're using. Now this is too large for my bail making pliers, so I've actually got a paintbrush that I use, and it's sort of tapered a little bit, which is really great because it means I can use it for different gemstones. So again, tail there, and I'm just going to make one rotation of this just to make sure that I've got the right size. Okay, so if I just pop that, straighten that out a little bit, pop that on there, you can see that's probably a little bit too large. I want it to really hug the gemstone, so I'm going to pop it back on a little way up and give that a pull. Just there. See whether we've made that a little bit smaller. So as you can see, that's just slightly smaller. I'm just going to give that a bit of a pull on a smaller section there. So there. So now you can see that it really hugs around that gemstone. So it's sitting really nice and close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to that size that we've got there, and I'm going to keep rotating the longer end around. So I'm going to, you want to go round a few times, and then just try that again just to make sure. So that's going to sit nicely in there. Now for the depth of it, depending on the depth of the gemstone that you've got, will determine how many rotations of wire you need. Now this one isn't too thick in depth, so you want it so that it sits on the bottom here, or here, whichever, and you've got enough then to close in around. So you want it just to be about the same sort of depth. So I need one more rotation, I think, on there. I'm just going to do one more. There. Okay. I'm going to pop it back on there, and I'm just going to give that a nice pull so that's nice and tight. Try and keep things close together, and it fits, still fits over there. And if we pop that in there, you'll see that'll sit nicely within there. Okay, so now we've got our one end here, so we'll make this our bail because it's the longer end. The shorter end here we'll use to make this spiral detail. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to pull that one in a little bit. So we're going to start that detail there. I'm going to get rid of some of this. We won't need, whoops, too much. Okay, so I've got a shorter tail there. I'm going to pop in my pliers right on the very end, and I'm going to start that rotation. So now you can see that little loop there isn't actually a circle, it's more tear shaped. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop my pliers in and take off, just take off that little tiny bit, and then when I pop my pliers back in and turn that around, you see that goes much more rounded. Okay, so then we're just going to continue that around. So you want this as an open spiral. So you see I'm moving it, but I've still got a little space around that opening there. So you need to hold everything here in place because you don't want this to go out of shape. And then just keep turning, spiraling that around until you've got that detail there. If you want the spiral sort of sitting in the middle, just continue that round and pull it into the middle, just like that. Okay. So now what we need to do is just straighten things up a little bit. There we go. So now we've got our spiral detail at the back. We're just going to try our gemstone within there. Let me just close that up a little bit and squeeze that together. I'm going to pop our gemstone within there. So our gemstone sits nicely in there. You can see it through the spiral at the back, and you can see it just literally is above the level of the last wire here. Okay, now obviously that will come out if we just tip that at that point. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop it back in, push it right down so it's nice and snug in there, and I'm going to hold all the wires, and I'm going to bring this wire over. So you see, I'm pulling that over, it's bringing it in at this point just here. Okay, so that's sort of stopping it at that point, and then we need to squeeze that in. And what we can do then is we can use pliers if you want to, just to bring that over a little bit, or to bring that round. You don't want to close it up too much because we don't want too much of a gap here and here. So again, I'm just going to push that back over. Because this is a soft wire, it's easier to do that. But once you've worked with it, it sort of work hardens it, and it's really nice and secure. So again, we're just going to sort of shape that up as best you want it, how you want it. So we need this one, this outer rotation here, to be slightly smaller than the others. So if you see, it sort of sits, and then you've got the outer ones that sit just like a little step really. So that then stops the gemstone from falling out. Now if you're worried about the gemstone coming out, you could always, before you pop it in, pop a bit of glue inside the spiral and sit the gemstone in. Or you could use, because it's drilled through, you could put some 0.25 wire through there and sort of wrap around either side. But for me, I know that the 1.25 wire is really strong, and I know that will hold that secure. Okay, so now what we've got to do, we're going to make the bail. Now the bail is up to you how you want it. I made this sort of sweeping bail with the loop going to the back. so I can put chain through it, but it's entirely up to you. But to do the sweeping bail as I've done it, we need to hold everything in place here, and then literally rub your finger along the wire, and as you do that, just bend it around. And while you're doing that, it sort of warms up the wire, so it makes it easier for you to bend. And you get a nice sweeping bend there. Okay, so what we need to do, I'm just going to bring that over a little bit. So now that's in line with the gemstone. So we want our hook to be in line with the gemstone. So we want our hook to be somewhere around this point just here. Okay, so I'm literally going to cut off at that point, and then I'm going to make a loop. So I'm going to pop in my pliers. Now I'm going to make the loop in the same direction as the spirals for the gemstone, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I'm literally going to wrap that around, keep going until it touches there. So you can see we've got our wire that goes in a sweeping movement there and then into the loop there. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to turn that loop around. And you might say, why didn't you do that in the first place? But I'll show you. What I tend to do is hold right at the point where the wires touch just here. Hold this in place and turn this in one direction, and your hands with the pliers in the opposite direction. So we're going like that. Okay, and now you'll see that we've got our loop at the back to put the chain in, but we've also got that sweep on there as well. If I'd have put the loop in that direction in the first place, the sweep would have gone round there and then backwards. But this way it sort of follows around, and it's really nice, and it gives it a nice even, so when it sits on the neck, it sits nicely like that. Okay, so all we've got to do now is just make sure that this loop is completely closed, because we don't want our chain from coming off there. Then we need to thread through our chain there, and that's it. That's how you make that pendant. And I just think it's a really nice simple way of encapsulating coin beads, or as I said before, you can use cabochons in there. So hope you enjoyed that video, and take care.